What's driving the digital revolution reshaping business today? What's giving companies the power to anticipate demand and bring new innovations to market faster? It's not transformation, but something more fundamental. It's data. Data that is hypercritical to everything you do. Data that's undergoing massive hypergrowth with each new transaction and every new connected thing. And hypersprawl, as data is scattered across different clouds and systems, apps and devices. Until now, your biggest challenge has been backup, recovery, and availability. But availability is only the start. Your data is ready to do so much more. Hyper-availability is the new expectation of data in today's enterprise, where data is not just available, but able to anticipate and meet demand automatically. To get there, you need a more intelligent approach to data management. In a hyper-available enterprise, data is driven by behavior, automatically secured and available where it's needed most to activate the business and accelerate innovation. That's how Volvo accelerates owner satisfaction, how Gatwick Airport accelerates secure departures, and Telefonica accelerates customer loyalty. It's how Industrial Scientific accelerates accident prevention to save lives. Omni Hotels accelerates exceptional guest services that win loyalty. And how Vestas is accelerating the value of sustainable energy for the planet. It's time to activate your business with intelligent data management from Veeam. The hyper-available future starts here. The journey begins now. Welcome to VeeamON 2018.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome President and Co-CEO, Peter McKay.
Hello. Welcome. It's great to be here. Great to see all of you. This is a fantastic event planned for you, and this is an event that is specifically designed for you. So how many of you heard the thunder last night at the hotel? It was incredibly loud. So it was a little weird. I think this may be the theme, because when we had the partner day yesterday, we had ACD playing Thunderstruck, so theme number one, and then we just played Imagine Dragons, Thunder and Lightning. So I think we have a little bit of a theme for this weekend, because I know some of you had some trouble traveling here with all the thunderstorms that we had. So thank you for coming. We have 2,200 people here. It's incredibly excited to be in front of you. And I know you have a lot of options. This is kind of the event time of year, and the fact that all of you are here and spending time with us is an honor, and we're grateful to have you here, and we're gonna make it absolutely worth your while. We've changed our format this year. We used to have a global session, everybody here, and so we've changed it to much more of a regional event where we could get a lot more attention and focus on our customers and our partners and the press and the analysts, all in a more geo-specific, and we're going around the globe and doing this very specific event more granular. So this is something you'll notice a little bit different this year. How many of you, if this is the first VeeamON that you've attended? Oh, that's great. That's awesome. Thank you for coming. This is great. How many of you have been here for one time, 2 times? That's great. That's like a third. How many of you been here 3 times? Wow. 4? Okay, we have 4. There you go. Okay, Kate, you're part of our team, so it's like. But this is by far the biggest audience, and thank you for all spending the time with us. This has been, an action-packed year. For those of you who have been with us a year ago, a tremendous amount of activity has happened throughout the 12 months, and we're excited to share with you all the different new products, new messaging, new success stories, and a lot we're going to share over the next few days. And so I want to get into, just tell you a little bit about kind of what the profile of some of the people here. So 2,200 people. We've got 6 premier sponsors, 50 total sponsors here, analysts, influencers, so a mixed group of people here we're excited to have all together in one spot. and 250 interviews to do over 3 days, which is going to be, pretty busy day. So hopefully by the time you leave, you're going to get all your answers to all your questions about anything you wanted to know about Veeam, our partners, and our alliances. An important day for all of us. So I want to go through and first off, thank our sponsors. So when we started, a year ago, more than a year ago, we think about these events and we think about how do we build an event around the ecosystem. And our market is changing dramatically, and I'm going to get into that a little bit more. But it was also important for us very early on. When I came 23 months ago, I came from VMware here, it was clear that there's a lot of companies who wanted to work with Veeam. There was a need for us, from our customers, to work more closely with the ecosystem. And so we went out and wanted to get much more deeper than just purely technical integration, which we have with all of these. But we've gone deeper than that. We've gone deeper with the way we've bringing our value proposition to our customers, how we work together to make our customers more successful. How do we leverage our channels together? How do we leverage our marketing and sales machines together? And this is much more to us than our premier sponsors or our platinum and silver sponsors that we have. These are our companies that we work with in our ecosystem, and we know across the board the executives of each one, all of which designed to give you a better experience as a customer of ours. And so when we look at the profile of our customers today is very different, perhaps 3, 4, 5 years ago. Small, medium, and now largest of large enterprises. This is kind of a little test. I was going to test you in the morning to see how many brands you recognize there. So by the looks of you guys, I'm not sure I'm going to be able to get too many answers to these questions. But this is something I'll ask you later on. But very good mix of customers from large and small, many verticals and around the world that are part of our ecosystem and our customer base. So I wanted to start off with our Net Promoter Score. And this is something that we feel very strongly about. It's something that we all, as an executive level at Veeam, are managed and measured on our Net Promoter Score. And as you can see, some of the best brands in the world have the same Net Promoter Score as us. We are now 3.5 times the industry average and above all of our competitors in our marketplace. This is not just about having the best product in the market, but the best customer support, the best culture, and the best customers we could possibly have. That gives us our feedback, that challenges us every day to be better and better at what we do. And so this is how we're going to continue to measure how well we're doing to ensure our customers are happy and successful. But it all starts with you, and we thank you for all the customers in the audience here. We thank you for trusting your data and trusting your infrastructure with us. But we hit a major milestone. In addition to 2 years in a row, a 73 Net Promoter Score, 2 years in a row, we just passed our 300,000 customer. So that was since I've been here, that's an average of 133 customers we've added per day. It's a major accomplishment for us to continue that customer success as we're acquiring more and more companies. So the number 300 we just announced is CarMax. CarMax is a Fortune 500 company, the largest used car reseller in the Americas. It was an Avamar and Veritas takeout, which is really a reflection on a lot of what's going on in the market. It's very much this transition that companies are going through, this refresh of their data center from moving from legacy infrastructure and legacy applications and legacy backup solutions to this new world. And so majority of our opportunities are replacing an Avamar, replacing a Commvault, or replacing a Veritas. They're very common for us, and most of you have witnessed that or been through that. And this is an important part of our strategy going forward, is to free up dollars and resources. I was just at a financial institution last week that spends over $1 billion a year on maintaining their infrastructure of their current solution and struggling to build this new infrastructure to support the new generation. And their focus is, how do I get money from here to use over here? And so majority of our opportunities that we're talking to, a lot of our mid to large organizations, is freeing up and refreshing that legacy infrastructure, saving dollars here and applying those dollars over here. And this is something that is a common occurrence across all the segments of the market that we're in. And so when we look at this world that we're entering into, and I go back to this conversation I had with Ratmir 3 years ago when he said, Peter, you got to come here. It's all about availability. It's all about availability. And I said, Ratmir, what do you mean by availability? And he said, it's about making sure that we do everything we can possibly do as a company to make sure our customers stay up and running 7/24, 365 days a year. And so the more and more I dug into that, the more I felt, oh my God, there is a huge opportunity. And you hear about it every day, this availability gap between where companies are today and where they need to be. But I actually believe we're entering into this new era. I call it the intelligent revolution, where intelligence and data is becoming more and more critical. And so when I love history, and I talk about, well, when you think of this revolution, what do I mean? Well, it all started with this industrial revolution way back in 1700, where steam was a big driver to electricity, and how that changed our lives and the way we consumed and the way we did our jobs, in a massive opportunity for companies who took advantage of those next wave to really move and optimize for electricity, steam. And for the past 30 years, I've had the awesome opportunity to be part of this compute revolution with PCs and internet and everything that we've all have lived through for many, many years. But it's now changing. And I do believe it's now going into the intelligent revolution. In our world, we look at kind of how backup was many, many years of backup and how it moved into recovery, and then it was about availability, and now this hyper availability, and we'll talk a little bit more. How this, more and more, the criticality of the intelligence of data is driving businesses today, or the successful businesses today. And this is why I'm more excited about Veeam today than I was 2.5 years ago when I first started having these conversations with Ratmir. I became a student of this space. And I do believe that the world we're in today has gone from a boring backup market to exciting mission critical. And a lot of it has to do with every day you open up the Wall Street Journal, you open up the paper, and you hear one after another of a company struggling to stay up and running, to failing to deliver that digital experiences our customers have come to expect, and our employees have come to expect, and our ecosystem has come to expect. From Uber to Delta, I find it incredibly, hopefully there's no airlines in the audience here today, but in the airline industry, it's almost every week there's something going wrong with the data center within an airline. British Airways, Delta, United, anyways. It's an opportunity. This is bringing to light a change in the market, that no longer is it acceptable for companies to just have an okay experience. And more that those applications are driven by data. And there's 3 major trends that all of you, I'm sure, are seeing in your infrastructure. We're seeing it in our companies. We're talking to our channel partners, are also seeing it. One is data is becoming more and more important. It's the lifeblood of companies today. It's making better decisions with the data that we all have in front of us. And when it's not there, we're making poor decisions. And I really believe we haven't even scratched the surface of how we're making better and better decisions, of how to increase the predictability of our business, how to increase our user experience, how to make sure we're always on, up and running 7/24. This is a critical opportunity for us, and one that we're very focused on making sure happen. The second is around growth, just the sheer amount of data. If you looked at that change, every 2 years it's doubling. 50-fold increase in the past decade of data. It is massive increase, and it's changing. It is not only generated from humans, but also machine generated for IoT. And all over the organization, this data is expanding and becoming more of a challenge for all executives around the globe. But the last is sprawl. It's much more than just where the data's sitting in the data center. Today, applications and data is located everywhere. It's on your clouds, your SaaS applications. It's locked into legacy applications. It's in disparate systems around. It's in these little devices that are all over the place that you're now tracking data, thermostats, everywhere in your house. So these 3 are driving this massive shift from hypercritical, hypergrowth, and hyper sprawl. that is this new reality that we live in the enterprise, where the challenge ensuring availability across the entire enterprise becomes much more critical and much more challenging for all executives, no matter if you're in IT or in lines of businesses. Organizations are struggling just to know where the data is. Forget about how I need to make sure that I can reliably back up that data from an attack or a loss or a theft. That is availability for any part of our business to drive decisions that we're making is incredibly important. And hyper-availability, as we see, is mission critical for our customers today. Hyper-availability is the new expectation for data in today's enterprise. Data must move from a new state of intelligence, able to automatically anticipate and meet the demands of our customers today. And data must be mobile in the expanded, always-on world that we need to live in. Hyper-availability brings new insights and data to increase the productivity of all of our organizations. And Veeam is here to help. This is what we're focused on. Our vision to be the most trusted provider of intelligent data management solutions to meet the expectations of a world that demands hyper-availability. Our strategy to provide the most complete hyper-availability platform for the intelligent data management solution to ensure business continuity, reduce risk, and accelerate innovation. That's our promise. That's how we wake up every day. This is what we're focusing on for the 3,400 employees we have across Veeam around the globe. But to back this up, we feel as though we have the best platform, from backup and recovery to replication and failover from one single pane of glass. The ability to orchestrate from private clouds to public clouds to physical. And over the course of VeeamON, we have 60+ breakout sessions that will go into this in a lot more detail. And Danny will be up next to talk more about this platform that continues to get broad, that continues to go deeper and deeper to make sure we can deliver on hyper-availability. And you'll hear more about this. We also talk about, Danny will talk about the 5 stages of intelligent data management. And this has been, I would say, two years in the making. Well, when you go into companies, they're always at some different phase, depending on the vertical, depending on the size, but they're all on a journey to get to a better spot. Some of them could be on this kind of stage 1 of just general backup and recovery. But more and more people are looking to aggregate what they have, to make sure they get an understanding of where the data is, and more visibility. And then to be able to orchestrate that from private to public and move around wherever that data needs to be or wherever that data should be, but to also do it automatically. In leveraging behavior-based to make sure that you can tie in your AI initiatives with making sure that you're moving and you're leveraging where data should be in the most optimal place to do that. And this is where we're going to talk a lot more about this evolution that we see our customers going through, and this is where we're going to help our customers move from various phases along this intelligent data management path. So I'd love to get to walk you through a great example of how a company is making it through this journey. And so I'd love to play a video of one of our top customers, Royal Caribbean Cruise Line. Play the video.
Innovation is in the DNA of this company. We're going through a digital transformation program where the main objective is to enhance the guest experience and create the memories that our guests want to create. Veeam is a very important tool for us. It actually helps us to have the peace of mind that our data is always going to be available.
Hyper-availability in my world means readily available at any point in time that I need it. Veeam helps me by enabling to most efficiently get my data restored as quickly as possible in any situation I encounter. These ships do not move without having data. So it's critical that data is available and data is backed up.
Royal Caribbean operates 49 ships. Every cruise ship has an onboard data center, and every cruise ship uses Veeam to protect their data. So we've got a system on the ship to track passengers to embark and debark the cruise ship. On embarkation day at 6 a.m., I get a call that the system went down. And within 30 minutes, that system was up and running using Veeam, which allowed our passengers to disembark on time. Veeam makes sure our 3 petabytes are hyper available.
That's a lot of data.
It's a good amount of data.
But this data is growing, so I guess that in 2 years we're going to be anywhere in between 5 petabytes to 6.
In terms of scalability, that's one of the reasons we chose Veeam. We need a product that will grow with us.
The main advantage Veeam gives us is the ease of use. If you could read the screen, you could recover your data. It's very simple.
Veeam enables us to spend more time focusing on our passengers and less time having to do extended training.
Veeam actually gives us this peace of mind that we don't even have to think about it. It's not even in our minds anymore.
Makes you want to take a cruise, doesn't it? That's awesome. So after doing 250 interviews today, I think we're going to all want to take a cruise. So it's references like this and customers like this wouldn't be possible without a powerful ecosystem we have around us. So it doesn't matter the size of your company, where you are around the world, what vertical you're in, we've got a partner that's there to help. We have the top ecosystem of any software company in the world, the most powerful with VMware, HP, Cisco, NetApp, Microsoft. All these companies are there working together. Our engineering organizations, our support organizations, our sales and marketing organizations, working to make sure we deliver the best experience for our customers. We also have 55,000 channel partners around the globe that's also there making sure that we're there for you. And we have 19,000 managed service providers that are running Veeam as a service for DR and backup as a service all around the world. That's also for companies who want to outsource that as a service. So this is incredibly powerful and one that we think is the best in the industry, and we want to continue to make sure we enhance that as we go forward. And to be mission critical for our customers, we need to make sure we have that ecosystem that's there to working together to make sure that happens. But it's not just technology. A lot is changing for all of us around the world. And so when I think about where we're going as an organization, I look at the markets. And again, this is the slide I had at the very beginning, had all the brands and the different logos. These are the companies that were on each of these. And this is something we're extremely proud of. Yes, we're proud of 300,000, but we're proud that they're a segment of all different parts of the market, whether you're small, medium, or the largest of large, whether you're a federal agency or a state government or a local organization, they're an opportunity for us at Veeam, and this is what we're focusing on. And we're going to continue to drive across all these segments to be the best company we could be in driving that. I want to leave today with some data on just the company itself, because a lot of you are customers, partners, and I think it's important to share with you kind of the momentum that we built over the number of years. In 2012, we were $176 million. Today, at 2017, we finished the year at $827 million, and that's software. That's not hardware. That's purely a software number. Growing at 36% every year. In Q4, we grew 48%. So incredible momentum in a market where everybody else is declining. And we believe that that's driven by our Net Promoter Score, our partner ecosystem, and the focus and attention of all the 3,400 employees that we have across the globe, and we're adding and adding each and every day. This is something that we're very proud of, our channel is very proud of, and we're happy to add for the people in this room that aren't Veeam customers today. You should be. There's order forms in the back. We'll make sure we get that to you. But it's important for us to continue the momentum that we're delivering in the market. I'm going to end with this slide, which is something that we use more internally than externally. But as you look at kind of the technology sector in the software world, there's 175 companies that are over 100 million. There's 62 companies that are over 500 million. And if this year, which our target is to exceed $1 billion, there's going to be 34 companies that have done that. It's a milestone. It's not that we're going to, hey, we got to $1 billion and we're going to stop. Our goal is to be 3, 4, 5 billion. The advantage of us, we're not public. We run our business as a long-term sustainable software company. We make decisions that are the right decisions long-term for our customers. And we're going to continue to do that. We're not trying to sell our business. We're not trying to go public. It's a long-term sustainable business. And so when I look back to when we started this year, we had a theme for our sales kickoff. It was called being all in. And it was kind of a, when you have all the right cards, you tend to go all in, the kind of off of a James Bond theme. But one of the themes that was down to 2, and one of them was good to great. We want to go from good to great. And I thought about this over the weekend. We had to make a decision of we're going to go all in or we're going to go good to great. And I said, and as I thought about it, I thought of the many conversations I had with Ratmir before I came to Veeam. And it was very different. I mean, I had this conversation. He said, Peter, look, I'm not bringing you here. I don't want to bring you here because, we need you to fix anything. I need you to here to continue to scale this business and continue to grow. And the more I got to know this business, the more I realized that this was a great opportunity for me, a great opportunity for the company, in the market. So this wasn't about going from good to great. In my mind, and again, in my mind, it was a great company already. And it was our job to go from great to greater, to be the greatest. And that's what we strive to do every day, is to be the greatest for our customers, for our partners, for our ecosystem. And that's what we're trying to do. But the world's changing, and this is important, where this digital transformation is changing all our lives. And data has the potential to bring and change the world in many different ways. There's a great article that was in The Economist magazine that data is to this century what oil was to last century. And if you think of all the impact oil had in last century, and to think of how that's going to manifest in the next century, bringing massive value to the lives of all of us and to change the business dynamics for all of us. So today, data is very different than it was yesterday. We think this is the intelligence revolution that we all have an opportunity to take advantage of. So thank you, all of you, for helping us become a better company and trying to become the greatest company we could be. Enjoy the show. Take advantage of all the things we have, but most importantly, have fun. And thank you very much. So we changed things up a little bit. So we have a number of fireside chats. So we're going to have some chairs brought up here, and we're going to invite our first. We're going to have a customer come up. We have a customer and 2 partners, and I'm going to have Jeff Gianetti, who runs Americas, come up as well. So, or maybe I'm not going to have chairs. The first person I'd love to come up is John Steinmetz. He is the CTO of SEI. He is someone, actually, hold on, John. I'm going with Danny Allen next on the stage. So I wanted to make sure I'm calling an audible. I'm getting it in my ear. Hold on. Okay, it's an audible. I'd like to introduce our VP of Global Strategy for all of our products, infrastructure, Mr. Danny Allen. Danny.
I almost didn't make it on stage. Thank you, Peter. Very excited to be here. I could not be more excited to be here because the success that Veeam has had is because of you, our customers. And I was able to be here last year and speak with many of you, and it's been phenomenal, the journey that we've taken just in the last 12 months. And so I'm excited to be here because we're at an inflection point in our industry. There's not many times that we are in an industry where the whole industry goes through a transformation. And I truly believe that we are at that point right now. And the reason is because we all live digital lives. I was sitting behind here in the green room following all the Twitter feeds that were happening. And yes, I see you out there. I see all the tweets coming through. And how is that enabled? It's through data. You're tweeting, and I'm consuming it. You're engaging with me through that digital interaction. And we all live this every day. I woke up this morning with my phone. It was my alarm. If that phone didn't go off, I wasn't going to wake up. I was pretty tired. It was a late night. So we all live these very digital lives. When I board an airplane, I don't use a paper ticket anymore. I use a digital boarding pass. When I check into a hotel, I got to the Marriott on Sunday night, and I come into the lobby, and there was a line in front of me, and I thought, oh. And then I remembered, hey, I can just check in on my phone. And this isn't just a convenience, it's a necessity. Whether it be healthcare, whether it be financial banking information, whether it be every aspect, security in our homes is based on this digital experience. And this rings home very personally for me. I gave a presentation yesterday at our Partner Summit, and I had a picture on screen of a little girl in front of a laptop. That little girl was my daughter. No one asked me, actually, where I got that picture. Her future, she does learning online, her testing, her learning, and someday when she goes to college, she will be dependent on the records, the academic records of what she's achieved. This is actually my son, same thing. So we live digital lives every single day, and there's not many industries where we impact the lives of every single person. There's not a person in this room that doesn't have a phone, or that doesn't interact with technology in some way. And that is really, really exciting. And so this has caused organizations to think very differently about how they engage. You're engaging with us through Twitter or LinkedIn feeds. But every organization says, how can I engage with my customer base? How can I learn from that? And that has caused them to create these digital services. Last week, I was at the DMV, I was registering a new car, and I thought, I was all excited to get this new car. I go into the Department of Motor Vehicles, and I sat in there for 3 hours. And I was thinking, you don't want to know what I was thinking, actually. It's not appropriate for the stage. I was begging for some digital services to do that car registration. So this has caused every organization to think, well, how can I stand out above the crowd, above the fog of all these businesses? How do I stand out? How do you stand out? It's through data. Creating these digital services, data driving this transformation. And so data has become hypercritical in everything that we do. Now, I come out of a military intelligence background, and as you might imagine, a lot of the data that we're collecting is important. But it's no less important or no more important than the data that you're collecting. And it's not just data in databases. It's not personal health information or personally identifiable information. That is important, no question. But data is the engine of this digital transformation. It's the currency of the enterprise. And what I mean by that, it's not just the intellectual property in our databases or our structured file systems. It's the intellectual property in our heads. Your career, my career, is based not just on what's inside your head, what you know. It's what you put out on paper. It's what you tweet. It's what you email. We all live this digital life, and it's so critical to every organization. It drives business decisions. When we want to know what's the next feature that we put in software, we interact with data to find that out, both automated and interactive with our customers. It opens new industries. It creates new markets based on this data. It's the driver of technology, but it's the driver of insights. It's the driver of better intelligence. And so it's critical to every single one of us. And so that has caused, of course, data to grow. I go back to my first job. I was working at a university, and we were collecting sensors from a bridge. It spanned from New Brunswick over to Prince Edward Island. You can tell from the accent I'm Canadian, right? 13-kilometer bridge. And on that bridge, there was almost 1,000 sensors. There was 500 load-bearing sensors, there was accelerometers, there was ice sensors. There were all these sensors collecting data. And I remember thinking at the time, there's no way that we have the capacity to absorb and store and protect and to actually leverage this data. But the world that we're in now, everything is collecting data. The light bulbs in my house are collecting data. The sensors, how many people are wearing a Fitbit right now? Probably a quarter of the audience. It's collecting information. And that data is driving a better environment for you, for your business, for the industry. And it's growing at an exponential rate. Not only is it growing at an exponential rate, but the real challenge here is that it's growing everywhere. It's sprawling everywhere. In my first job, it was a CP6 mainframe, Banyan Vines network. And data went into that mainframe. I knew exactly where it was. But the struggle that we see with customers today, I meet with a lot of executives, and what we hear is, I can't even get my hands around where the data is. It's in SaaS clouds, it's in public clouds, it's in private clouds. When we become a barrier to the lines of business delivering the digital services, they just go around us, shadow IT. There was an interesting report just recently I read back in January of the disclosure of black ops sites because the soldiers were going out and running around and there was heat maps revealing where these supposedly secret sites were. Now you say to me, but yeah, that's data, that why would an executive care about that? Well, obviously they want to keep it secret, but it's also information that helps to promote the business, to help your employees and the folks in those sites operate at a higher scale. And so data not only is growing exponentially, it's not only critical, but it's everywhere. And getting our hands around it is the challenge that we have today. And so we believe that the answer to this is hyper-availability. Now you say to me, what's hyper-availability? There are 3 components to hyper-availability that I believe are really important to understand. The first is that data is able to automatically sense and react to the needs of the business, anticipate demand, and to meet it. The second is that it can move data securely across the multi-cloud and hybrid cloud environment. And the third is that it drives the intelligence revolution, that it gives insights to the business to make decisions to do something, or more importantly, not to do something. And so hyper-availability is the reality that we live in today, that every organization requires, that they need to have this anticipation of need and meeting it, driving intelligence and moving data to the most appropriate location. And so our vision, as Peter alluded to, that we're very proud of, is to be the most trusted platform of intelligent data management solutions that meet the expectations of the enterprise. Now, you say to me that's a big vision, and it is. We have 300,000 customers that we go to, and the key to us is that most trusted. The relationship. This isn't just about buying a software. This is about driving the organization forward towards a more intelligent way of leveraging our data to stand out above the crowd. Something that I've been thinking about recently in the last week has been the revolution of the combination between automation and artificial intelligence. My belief is that the combination of these 2 things will drive the most disruptive forces in the industry in the next decade. I don't think it's just blockchain or just artificial intelligence. It's what we do with that data. It's how we understand the context of it to drive intelligent data management. Now that all sounds wonderful and way out there, but it's not. We can do this today, and we believe that we can help you through it, this 5-stage journey. And I believe it's really important to highlight that it is a journey. This isn't just buying software and implementing it. This is going through a methodical process to go towards a better state of intelligence. I come out of the security space, and you all probably know the memo that came out from Bill Gates back in January of 2002. He said, we need to create software that's more secure. You know what happened in February? Was software more secure? No. March? No. April? No. It wasn't until January of 2004 that he said, here's a secure development lifecycle. Here is the journey that you need to go through to actually deliver that. And so I believe that we can help move the industry, move the market through this transformational journey by starting with backup and replication. Yes, we're not ignoring backup and replication. That is the foundation or the cornerstone, the first step in this journey. It's protecting the data against outage and theft and loss. We have to do that. And you would be shocked at how many organizations that I go to today that still struggle with the basic concepts of 3 copies of the data on 2 different media types and 1 off-site. And I think, how can we be at this point? 20 years later, I go back to my first job, we were doing backup, and here we are 20 years later, and innovation has been capturing more copies of the data. We're still struggling with the basics of backup, but we have to start there because that is how data is protected. Most of the leading organizations that I speak with now, the large enterprises, I was at a large retail customer over in Australia a few months ago, 3,000 locations, and they were struggling with aggregating all of those silos into a central, single, coherent view. And this is especially important as we begin to leverage and deliver services from SaaS clouds and from IaaS, or infrastructure as a service clouds, and not just on premises. So this isn't aggregating. I want to highlight something. This is not aggregating all of the data sources. You're not going to combine your SaaS systems, your Office 365 with your Salesforce, and your high capacity, your high performance computing system on flash. You're not going to combine that with your file system. There is still a reason to have silos of data sources. But when you aggregate the data protection across all of those, that is when you begin to get visibility into how to proactively drive benefit to the enterprise. And this is so important. We have been responding to the industry. We've been responding to our organizations, reacting rather than helping drive it forward. They need backup, we'll give them backup. My belief is that when we get to the phase of visibility, we help shift IT on a pivot point from being reactive to being proactive, driving positive business outcomes that actually drive and enable that intelligence that we're moving towards. And so visibility can be as simple as, I'm running out of capacity in my data center. I want to move this workload to the cloud. Here's what the ROI looks like. It could be as simple as, I have a copy of the data. Let me enable the developer on-demand self-service to hit a button and say, give me a copy of that data so that I can innovate and deliver digital services faster. Having the visibility across all of the data enables better business outcomes. Now, if you ask me what is the exciting piece for 2018 that I think a lot of the focus is going to be on, I had a really exciting conversation yesterday with a partner who's working on chef automation. My belief is that orchestration is going to be the focus point for the next 12 months for a lot of the cutting edge, the leading edge industries. And the reason I say this is because there's this saying that I use, when you're down, you're just as down until you get it back. I don't care if you use our software, a competitor's software, if you write it out on paper, your data, and you put it in a filing cabinet. If that data is gone, it's gone until you bring that paper back and put it on your desk. It's back, it's gone until the data comes back. Now, the reality is that systems are no longer just a piece of paper on the desk. And they're no longer a single VM or a single file server. Orchestrating recovery today is this very complex mashup of components, where if you're failing over, for example, into a public cloud, you might be spinning up VXLANs and re-IPing things and changing DNS and orchestrating the recovery of multiple VMs and connecting different IPs and certificates to external partners. It's a complex scenario to orchestrate the recovery. There is no big, easy button for some of that. And so orchestration is really important as we move forward towards intelligent data management. But the phase that gets me most excited is this final stage as we move towards intelligent automation. Now, I made a statement. Technology combining automation and artificial intelligence will be the most disruptive force for the next decade. This isn't just 10 years from now. This is today. We can leverage intelligence with automation to drive better outcomes. Let me give you an example of that. Innovation in the past has been very policy-based. Let me take a copy of my data once a week. And innovation was, oh, let me do it once a day. Congratulations. Let me do it once an hour. Let me do it once every 15 minutes. How about we leverage the findings of the ecosystem of our environment to drive a better business outcome around data protection? Something as simple as your IDS on the edge of the network sees malware crossing it, and it calls out to Veeam, and it says, take a snapshot of the data. I was at a customer a few weeks ago, and they said, I want, every time someone walks into the data center, if I've never seen their face before, and I don't know the face of the people that is there, if I've never seen their face before, take a snapshot of the data and then track everything that happens over the next 30 minutes. That is leveraging the environment to drive greater intelligence around data protection. So innovation isn't just capturing more copies of the data, it's responding to it. We have a prototype, an integration with High Trust that sees ransomware occurring in real time through an IO filter, sees the .docx or .pptx, changing to an encrypted file, and it automatically recovers the file and notifies the security team. That is the type of innovation and intelligence driving data protection that moves the industry forward. But it's not just security, those are exciting, but what about driving and accelerating innovation? I would wager a bet that most of the people in this room come from technology companies delivering software, and you want to deliver it faster. Well, there are a few ways to do that. You can do it 100% in the cloud, you can do it 100% on premises, you can do it in a hybrid world. Leverage intelligence to drive the best way to do that. If a developer comes in and says, give me self-service, the current digital service so that I can iterate on it, it may choose completely automated to spin that out on the public cloud, where variable-based workloads work really well because the developer is only working 8, 9, 10 hours a day. If we get a lot out of them, maybe 11 hours a day. But they're only working a part of the day. The rest of the day, you can turn it off. Leveraging intelligence for movement of workloads. And maybe as that houses sensitive information, maybe you pull it on premises or into a private cloud or into a compliance-based cloud. So we can leverage it to accelerate innovation in our organizations. Or another interesting one, I have a customer right now down in Florida that has set up replication. When the storms are coming in, they set up replication to the public cloud, and should their data center go offline, they hit the button and it fails over. Well, that's good. Actually, that's really good. We want always-on availability, right? However, it's expensive to run replication 100% of the time for DR purposes. Intelligence would be consuming a news feed to say a weather system is coming in, orchestrate and set up the replication to the public cloud, keep it on hot standby, and if the data center goes down, fail over. And if the data center doesn't go down and the storm passes, shut it back down. Leveraging intelligence for better data outcomes is where we need to go as an industry, being proactive rather than reactive. And so you say, okay, that's great. That's how you do it. What is it that you offer? So here at Veeam, we're very focused on delivering the most complete hyper-availability platform. We are not moving away from backup and recovery and replication and failover. Those are the cornerstones of this platform. And one of the tweets I saw earlier backstage is that a platform is so important, more important than having product. And so having a comprehensive platform where the cornerstones of that are backup and replication is imperative. And so when product strategy gets together, what you'll find is we talk about how do we iterate, how do we do more exciting and interesting things around this. And if you're not signed up for the Senior VP of Product Management session, it's the last session of the day tomorrow, he's going to talk about some of these exciting things. But the cornerstone of this is backup and replication, underpinned by APIs. Now, why do I get excited by APIs? I've always been an API first person because APIs allow you, A, to say yes, and B, to meet the business need. Now, sometimes they're just for fun. I have an SE over in EMEA who said, I'm going to do an integration with Alexa so that I could wake up in the morning and say, hey, Alexa, can you back up my data? Or, hey, Alexa, how much capacity do I have left? So that's fun. But we can leverage these for real benefit to the organization. And people obviously know Veeam for our integrations at the hypervisor level. We integrated with vSphere to leverage the vSphere API for data protection. We added Hyper-V. We've added Acropolis hypervisor. And then the storage partner said, hey, you can actually deliver better performance by doing snapshots at the storage level. And so we introduced a universal API for storage snapshots. And in the last 6 months, we've added IBM and Lenovo and Infinidat and Pure. We already had NetApp and Nimble and all of these integrations to deliver better outcomes, to enable the customer to react to the demand, anticipate the demand and react to it more quickly. Application integrations, so that you don't say, I need to recover the whole system, I just need this file. I just need this transaction in the database. I just need this OU in Active Directory. That you can do granular restores by integrating deeply at an application level. This is going to become even more important as we go towards serverless, where we're interacting with functions and we just need a little bit of data back rather than a whole system. And then integrations at the network level. All of this, data just doesn't move in its own little silo. It has to move across networks. And so integrating and understanding quality of service and how that impacts the movement of data is another area that we focus on these integrations. Now, these integrations don't just live at a data protection level. They live at enabling positive business outcomes like data labs. Now, data labs are the ability to take a copy of the data and stand it up in a completely isolated sandbox so that you can drive better business outcomes. And so the one that I always highlight is DevOps, because I spent time in engineering. I still like to write code when I geek out. But it's not about DevOps or DevSecOps or DevTest. That's important. That's a use case. The benefit to the business is accelerating innovation. If a developer can self-service, say, give me a copy of the data so that I can iterate on this, it allows you to be more agile. The second one is around security, ensuring or reducing IT risk. Last week, the patches came out from Microsoft, 68 of them. For the month of May, 21 of them critical. You can imagine the disruption of testing all of those vulnerabilities across your organization. Give me a copy of the data. Let me test them before I roll them out. Or security. I spent a lot of time bringing down systems, buffer overflows, denial of service attacks. That's a little bit disruptive. Hey, Mr. CEO, do you mind if I test a denial of service attack against the production system? The answer to that is almost always no. But you can spin up an independent copy, isolated copy of the data to test it. Or ensuring compliance. GDPR is 9 days away. I just got a tweet on GDPR. Is 9 days away. It's coming into effect. And understanding what your data is, managing it, securing it, making sure that you control the access to it is incredibly important. If you do that data classification on your production systems, incredibly disruptive. Take a copy of the data, do that data classification, tag it to a geo, determine where and where you can't recover it, positive business value. And there is a huge amount of focus going into driving this positive business value based on intelligence that we're building into our platform. And there's more going to be shared on this in the session that Anton Gostev is giving tomorrow. So data labs are very, very important and strategic for us. But then we wrap all of this up with visibility and control. I was meeting with a customer, as I said, over in Australia, 3,000 different locations. What do they need? Visibility across their entire world. Royal Caribbean or the cruise line ship, 3 petabytes of data. That's not just living in one data center. That's private data centers and public data centers and SaaS data centers. We need to have visibility across them all. And so the focus, first of all, of course, is on all those virtual infrastructures that we can capture, whether it be private or public or managed or edge or IoT. We ensure that you have visibility across all of those. And then on SaaS, we have 29,000 downloads right now of backup for Office 365. Why is that? Because in Office 365, they don't actually have backup built into the platform. And you need to have control of that data. It becomes critically important to your business to drive better business outcomes. And then lastly, of course, they're still physical. There are some systems that are never going to be virtualized, performance reasons, virtualization reasons. But we still are looking at physical and wrapping all of that up into a single pane of glass. Now, why do we do that? Because it's then that we can apply that intelligent automation. Some of that is internal to the platform, and you'll see us driving more intelligence within the platform, but some of that intelligence comes from outside the platform. Are we going to create an intrusion detection system? Probably not. Ratmere? I'm not sure. Are we going to do image recognition for people coming into a data center? Probably not. There are these elements of network characteristics or user characteristics or application characteristics that we probably won't do, but it will drive a better business outcome. And so our focus over the last 10 years has been moving from protecting single VMs to the whole data center to this orchestration, hyper-availability for a multi-cloud world with intelligence plugged into it. And as Peter alluded to, the number that I am most proud of is our Net Promoter Score. How willing are you to recommend Veeam to someone you know? We have a plus 73 score, 3.5 times the industry average. But our promise is still the same, and that is that people have confidence in their digital lives. Thank you very much. Now with that, it is my pleasure to welcome to the stage the godfather of data protection, our Vice President of Enterprise Strategy. Is he around the corner? Dave Russell. Really exciting to be on stage with Dave Russell, obviously the co-author of the Magic Quadrant. We were going to leap forward to the top right, and we shot ourselves in the foot by hiring the co-author of the Gartner Magic Quadrant, but pleasure to be here, Dave.
Good to be here.
So, how's your first week been?
Yeah, day 5 on the job officially, so far so fun. If every day is like this, it's going to be a good time.
So, you've been around the data protection space a lot longer than I have. You know the data protection space very well. Why make the change now?
Yeah, you know, I don't move around a lot. This is my 3rd company in almost 30 years, so at 2 other stops for 28 years. Never thought that I would leave either. Sometimes opportunity presents itself. You know, 15 plus years at IBM, it was awesome with my wife being a programmer of mainframe backup products. Then 5 years as a development manager of what became TSM, was ADSM, now Spectrum Protect. Last 5+ years as architecture and technical strategist for storage software. And suddenly a Gartner opportunity opened up, and I wasn't looking for that, and it seemed like a lot of fun. And nearly 13 years at Gartner, and got to go basically be on the other side of the Magic Quadrant that I was participating in. So I got to lead that MQ around backup and recovery for a dozen years. And last half dozen years got to co-chair one of Gartner's largest conferences, which was good fun. And, you know, opportunity came out of nowhere, literally on a Sunday morning as something started up. And I don't think I consciously realized it was time to make a choice, but subconsciously, I think I knew that, you know, I kind of set out what I'd look to do. And I knew that my last stop, I wanted to be a builder again. Mm-hmm. And, you know, one of the things that kind of blew my mind away is that your vision of the future and how I've been seeing things, and you know, I usually get to talk to 1,000+ people a year, and it was so well aligned. I thought, this is just kind of more than serendipitous. You know, the time to seize it was now, so I'm excited to be a builder and excited to take this to the next level.
Building is so valuable, so it's great to see the industry, but actually making that positive market momentum, just, it's fun to do that, isn't it?
Absolutely.
So, you looked at Veeam, obviously, and you thought we were well positioned to be a leader. Why is that? Why Veeam?
Well, if you think about what it takes to be a leader, in my mind, a leader is someone that shapes the market, moves the market. You know, that's frankly how I evaluated organizations or vendors in the Magic Quadrant process, is who is pushing things forward? You know, kind of that change for good that you just referenced, but who is also causing others to react? And you know, historically, Veeam came out, was very disruptive. I would actually assert that some of the legacy vendors and even some of the emerging vendors to this day are still trying to fully respond. But you know, you can't rest on your laurels. It's who's going forward, who has that kind of vision. And if you think about what does a leader do, a leader's out ahead. You know, a leader's understanding where things are going to be and helping to accelerate your ability as an organization to get there and to do it safely. You know, to do it incrementally. No 2 companies are the same. You've got to do it on your own time as it makes sense. But I think a leader fundamentally is who has the right kind of vision and who has the right kind of people to actualize or manifest that vision. Mm-hmm. And fundamentally, I look at 3 things. You know, Veeam today, they have a product. They have what now is going to be called the hyper-availability platform, have the vision, and have the people and the culture to sustain that. Because you can have great PowerPoint, but PowerPoint doesn't save your butt at 2 in the morning.
That is absolutely the case. So you said you talked to 1,000 customers. That is more than...
Well, annually, I get to talk to an aggregate, you know, a lot of them.
So you obviously see significant industry trends in what has happened over the last decade and as it's moving forward. What are those trends, and what are the ones that excite you the most?
Yeah, you know, I think if you decouple this, you look at it kind of first specifically around availability, backup, and recovery. About 8 years ago, I got really curious about why people actually switch backup products. You know, a lot of us threaten to switch because we want better maintenance agreements or something like that. But I started an initial model with about 2,500 data points and since expanded on that and came up with something that I call the 3 C's, just meaning that the top 3 reasons people actually change products have to do with words that begin with the letter C. It was cost, oftentimes TCO, but could be maintenance or could be acquisition. It was capability. You know, years ago that might have been protecting a virtual environment. Today that's oftentimes speed of backup, but more importantly, as you know, speed of restore or providing instant mounts of versions of your data. And then complexity. You know, setting up a system is one thing, and that's important, but it's really day in, day out, can you maintain the system? You know, does it take a Formula One crew to keep this, you know, infrastructure up and alive? So those same challenges oftentimes, unfortunately, still exist to a crazy degree, and that's why that stage 1 that you represented will forever be vital, because there's many of us still struggling with that. I think the next phase of that is really, if you're going to go through all the trouble to capture data and move data and have metadata associated with that, for an insurance policy that you hope you never have to cache, that you know that at some point you're going to, wouldn't it be nice to repurpose that for other business value add? And then if you think a little bit broader, this is where, you know, we're just like so like fundamentally in alignment. I really believe a lot in the power of APIs. It's not an API into a product so that an engineer can go and do something. That might be helpful, but today's APIs are really about leveraging ecosystems, about extending relationships. So in Veeam speak, that might be the universal storage APIs, but one example. Totally agree with you about artificial intelligence, machine learning. You know, AI is what basically scales humans. It's what allows humans to be able to do more by attacking complexity. And environments are only getting more complex, not less so. And then I think about automation, or I like to use the phrase extreme automation, because extreme automation is what amplifies the power of people. So if you imagine a future where you have a programmable infrastructure coupled with extreme automation underpinned by APIs, in an intelligent, adaptable world that's increasingly going to be more federated, more hybrid, that is the reality that we're going to find ourselves in. In fact, really are finding ourselves in already.
How much of that automation have we scratched the surface on? Do you think we've actually moved anywhere, or is there a lot of runway still to go?
There's so much headroom. You know, automation is like saying performance. You are never done solving a performance bottleneck because it's like whack-a-mole. You move to the next one. And it's not the goal is to automate absolutely everything and blindly, but to automate wherever there's business critical need. And I think that's what's creating a vast landscape of opportunity.
So what's your role going to be in Veeam? So, you know, you're excited by these trends, some of the things that are happening. What's your role going to be?
So I'm laser focused on the enterprise segment. I think Ratmir has said it very publicly. I know Peter has said it very publicly that Veeam wants to win in the enterprise. So I'm here to definitely make sure that happens and to do it on a faster time scale. You know, that said, Veeam as an organization is incredibly committed to all segments, the SMB, the commercial, and the enterprise. But at the end of the day, it's about taking the intelligent data management platform or vision and getting deeper into probably Fortune 500 accounts, I'll call it. And it's not that Veeam isn't present there today. Veeam has a presence in 75% of the Fortune 500. But you know, when I look at the cost structure, or TCO, when I look at the capabilities, when I look at the scalability, when I look at the ease of use, when I look at the vision that you've set out, Veeam should move from being a point solution, or one of many in the enterprise, to being the single integrated holistic solution that can address large enterprise needs. So at the end of the day, it's really about how can we take this platform and those 5-stage journey that you laid out and deliver more customer value to larger organizations.
How many VeeamONs have you been at, Dave?
Third. I did the keynote at the first one in Vegas, missed one, got to hang out in the audience in Vegas last year and got to meet you, and very awesome to be at this one.
There's nothing better than actually speaking with customers, is there, and understanding what the needs are and meeting those needs that they have.
Absolutely, and this is kind of fun because they call that a green room, but this is a very green room out here too.
This is where all the learning takes place, what those Fortune 500 actually need with that intelligence to drive the business forward.
Totally agree.
Well, any closing thoughts that you want to share with the audience before we go?
You know, as someone that's watched Veeam externally for some time, certainly the accomplishments speak for itself. The brag numbers, 300,000 customers, et cetera. You know, all those things are good, but you know, that's also what we did yesterday. Now it's about going forward. It's about leveraging that. And at the end of the day, you know, people like Ratmir, people like Peter, people like Kate, people like yourself are what makes Veeam an exciting place. And that's what I think really allows us to realize the full potential of the opportunity that's out there. Because there is a lot of frustration, a lot of pain, unfortunately, with availability and data management more broadly. So that means there's a lot of opportunity for good.
That's great. Well, I could not be more excited to have you up here today. Thank you for coming up, and look forward to a great year.
Thanks, you. Dave. Thanks, everyone.
So with that, I would like to introduce back to stage our president, co-CEO, and friend, Peter McKay.
This is the fireside chat.
Yes.
All right, we got the timing right. Excellent, thanks, Danny. So now is the time for the fireside chat. We've juggled things around just to keep you on your toes. So what we like to do is just kind of get a mix of a rapid fire of a number of partners. We're going to invite a customer on stage, and I'm going to have Jeff Giannetti come up. So I'm going to do my best, Jimmy Kimball, and invite John Steinmetz up here, the CTO of SEI Investments based in Philly, which makes it very difficult for a Patriot fan to invite a Philly fan up on stage. But please welcome John Steinmetz up on stage. Hey, John.
How are you?
How you doing?
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Thanks, John. Have a seat. So I did hear that you were a Patriot fan. I mean, a Philly Eagles
fan. Yes.
So did you have a chance to go to the Super Bowl this year?
I did. It was great. We had a great time out there. Minneapolis did a great job hosting, but I'll tell you, it was the coldest place I was ever at.
Was it?
It was 6 degrees below.
Oh, I heard that. You were all inside in the mall,
yes.
right?
Yeah, that's when I first read it. I'm like, oh, we have to go to Mall of America to get in, and I didn't understand it. Oh, thank goodness.
Yeah,
because
that's a different place.
Yeah.
I'm not so sure they're going to do it in a mall again.
Yeah, I hear you.
Super Bowl. But congratulations on your win. You also coach football.
I do a little bit.
I didn't know that.
Yes, yeah, coach a high school football team in Philadelphia.
How do you be a CTO and coach football at the same time?
I'm lucky. I have some great people that work for me.
Oh, got it. So tell us about yourself. Tell us about SEI and what the business is all about. I did a lot of research. It's an amazing company. So tell us about it.
So you mentioned I'm the CTO. I've had that role for 10 years. We're located about 30 minutes outside of Philadelphia in Oaks, PA. We service about 7,500 wealth management clients, whether that be banks, advisors, hedge fund organizations, and they in turn service about 2.5 million end clients. So we have about 300 billion in assets under management and 500 billion in assets under administration, which means our back office and middle office offerings.
That's amazing. And so the theme, I saw you over there sitting in hyper availability and the intelligent data, and how, I mean, imagine in your industry, data is a critical part of how you make decisions and how you do. Tell us how that's changing and impacting you.
It is. Our clients look at us as a private cloud provider. So we have 3 petabytes worth of data as well, which I found out this morning is a lot.
That is a lot.
According to Royal Caribbean. We have about 600 physical servers and a little under 10,000 virtual servers. So first and foremost in the data business for us is making sure we provide a safe and secure offering for our clients.
Right.
And then after that is figuring out a way to expose that data to our clients, whether it be via operational dashboards, whether it be end user client websites for the 2.5 million end customers, or exposing the data to our clients from API perspective so that they can do some data analytics. Yeah. They can take data that we're responsible for and integrate it with their corporate data warehouses, things of that nature.
Yeah. You talk a lot about customers and access to data. What's that change in customer expectations for your service and availability of that service?
24/7, 365. actually, that's kind of the I don't know if I want to say the cost of doing business or the baseline anymore. But for us, for example, we have there's still a lot of batch processing that's evolved in our industry, and we provide a lot of transparency to our clients. I mean, if we have an interface file that's 5 minutes late now, we're getting a phone call. I mean, the level of anticipation of data, because there's so much going on downstream now, because everything's kind of being so seamless together, but the stream is so big that if we're 5 minutes late, they're picking up the phone, wanting to know where it is. So
the bar is
the bar is getting higher and higher. Exactly.
So you just went through a process of looking at and evaluating different solutions to help you with your availability needs, and tell us about the process. What was the problem you were trying to solve, and what was the process you went through? When we look at
an infrastructure item or a technology upgrade, we always look at it from three perspectives. Cost, can it save us money? Risk, can it help us mitigate our risk, and can it make us operationally more efficient? And when we began, we were doing, and don't judge me on why, but we had two different products. One product doing kind of our data, another product doing our virtual environments, and we made the decision that we wanted to try to find one.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
We wanted to try to find one product. So when we went through that analysis, Veeam was great. I mean, we saw some financial savings, but more importantly, it really helped us with our risk profile. We went from being able to really back up almost like once a week to now daily, and we have the potential to see that improving. And from a operational efficiency, our guys love the product, its ease of use, and we also see we can forecast out that its ability to scale for us. As we scale, it looks like the product's going to scale with us fine. So we're real excited about it from those three perspectives.
And you and I talked yesterday. It sounds like your business is changing, not only as kind of an infrastructure as a service internally, but you're also looking externally as well. So that's a change in business a little bit.
Correct. We're as I mentioned earlier, we're kind of viewed as a private cloud provider to our clients. So part of our job today is to provide an integrated level of service for our clients. And what that looks like is we have a number of SEI-built applications, but we also host 160 other applications that are part of our offering, that are part of our service to our clients. So we're kind of in this hosting business, specifically targeted at our clients and financial services. But now we're extending that out and starting to host for some of the mid-sized clients that we have their applications, or extend our services out to do whether it be some security service for them, or we have a couple offerings where we're going to remotely host and service firewalls and some of the infrastructure that's required inside. And we think in order to make that offering successful, we're probably going to have to move to a hybrid hosting model, a hybrid cloud model, where SEI and Oaks would be our primary host, but we would look to maybe need to be regional a little bit to service a client. And we think Veeam's going to be greatly positioned to help us with the backup and recovery and some of the other offerings that you have, for us to be able to do that and not be agnostic to where the data resides.
That's exciting.
Yeah, we're excited about it.
When you think of the years to come, any major initiative? I mean, that sounds like one major initiative. Strategic initiatives that you're dealing with or you're looking at, or opportunities in front of you?
Well, I think, number one on our list is always security. I mean, it's just such a big deal for us, and it's just out there. I think the other one, I just heard it mentioned earlier, the whole DevOps model, and trying to make that better and trying to make that more effective, and automation. What can we automate to make not only our internal processes more effective and more efficient, but as well as what can we automate for our clients. So the more we can automate, the more we can be, look, mom, no hands, I think the better off we'll be, and the better off we'll scale. So
that's good. John, I know you're incredibly busy. I appreciate you coming down and spending time with us. Despite the fact you're a Philadelphia Eagle fan and I'm a Patriot fan, thank you very much for being part of our event. Awesome.
Thanks.
Thank you very much, John.
Great.
Okay,
Enjoyed it.
thank you. So, we talk about the importance of an ecosystem, and part of that is not just, as we talked about, the technology integration we have with our partners. It also is just the close collaboration we have across all aspects of our business. And so the next person I wanted to talk about is, one of our top partners is Cisco. And a lot of it has to do with the culture and the friendship you develop over the years. And one person that we've had a great relationship, a great friendship all along, that's really been the driver of the partnership between Veeam and Cisco over the years is Cynthia Johnson, the VP of Data Center Sales. Cynthia Johnson.
Hello, Peter.
Thank you for coming. Thank you. Please have a seat.
Thank you.
Cynthia, you know that our partnership has been off to a great start.
It has.
And we're now starting to get into a lot more opportunities together and a lot bigger deals. And so you are such a critical part of the future and a lot of the things that we're doing together that we have to know where you are at all times. And so I know you were just on vacation, but with that, I have now found the paparazzi was able to, is it showing up on stage? We were able to track you down and found that you were in Costa Rica. So we make sure we know where you are at all times.
And I have to say, a really flattering picture, 90 degrees,
it
tons
is.
of sunscreen.
We were hiding in the woods.
But it was a great family vacation.
It was nice, relaxed.
Lots of family time, and I have to say, we've talked about the explosion of data and the proliferation of data. I'm proud to say for 1 week with my family, the only data Mrs. Johnson created was family pictures.
That's awesome.
So
that's good.
It's hard to take a break, and it was really worth it.
Good. So welcome back.
Thank you.
We talked a lot about the data and the intelligent data, the intelligent intelligent revolution and data management. Obviously, that's a big opportunity for Cisco as well, and a lot of conversations you're having about data criticality, data growth, data sprawl. How is that impacting the conversations you're having with your customers?
Well, so what's interesting is that as I heard some of the keynotes this morning, the messaging really resonated with me, because when we at Cisco talk to our customers, we know the digital revolution, it's here and it's here to stay. What's so important is, for a long time, we were talking about the explosion of data. But now we're talking about data sprawl and most importantly, how critical the data is. Mm-hmm. So if you and I think about it, just as everyday citizens, I think it's safe to say everybody here in the audience probably has a smartphone. So do you have a mobile banking app? I know I do.
Yes, I do.
Yeah, right.
Well, my wife does.
Yeah,
so she's the one who does that.
Well, so if
she controls all the money.
So
I just make it, she spends it, and she manages it.
So when you get your check, although you probably don't get a physical check anymore,
no, but
right?
if I do, I give it to her.
That's probably in safekeeping,
it's probably
right?
better that way.
So if you think about it, she takes a picture of that check.
Yeah.
She used to, or you used to, physically go to a branch, and that was a physical document, and then the data was created for the record. But you had redundancy there. But that's long since gone. Mm-hmm. So just as consumers, if you think about it, if you were making deposits into a banking institution and they didn't have records of those deposits, how long do you think you'd be banking with that customer or with that bank?
Yeah.
Not very long,
Not very
right?
long.
So really important for customer retention, customer satisfaction, ease of doing business. There's a lot that goes into making sure that the data is protected and available at all times. And it's one of the things that Cisco is so focused on in partnership with Veeam, is building a platform that really supports and reinforces the business objectives of our enterprise customers to have that data available at all times.
Got it. So we're off to a tremendous start. We've done a lot of great business, but we were working together a couple years ago, but it's really taken off recently. Why? What's that message that's resonating with the customers, joint customers, and our partners?
So what I can tell you is that this relationship started in 2013, and it started as an alliance. But what we quickly found is that when we'd go out and talk to customers and they'd say, tell us more about the Cisco Veeam alliance, it made us realize that we wanted to start bringing our engineering teams together. And the reason why we wanted to bring them together is because the partnership just makes sense. We're talking to customers about Cisco UCS, which is our compute platform, and our compute platform, according to IDC or any of the other industry experts, is the most virtualized platform in the market. That, coupled with the success and the dominance that Veeam is having in the virtualized data protection space, makes our common customers, it makes it such a clear message. So we needed to bring our engineering teams into the conversation, not just our sales teams, and we've created Cisco validated designs. And if you're not familiar with what a validated design, it means that our engineering teams work together to pre-test and to pre-validate Veeam and UCS working together. So when a customer deploys the solution, it is a predictable deployment with predictable performance. And then we wrap all of that around with a shared support model, which has really given our customers the confidence that we are committed to this partnership. But we kind of went one step further with Veeam, and we put Veeam on Cisco's global price list, which is not something Cisco takes lightly.
No.
Cisco has a big portfolio. You know, I'm just saying that good things are worth the wait.
Yes, it was. Absolutely.
And we really did that to ensure that our customers, whether you traditionally have done business with Veeam or with Cisco or any of our channel partners, that it's ease of doing business and that you can purchase that product all in one single PO.
How is that? Talk a little bit more about the ecosystem. You know, we talk about hyper availability. How does the ecosystem factor into this kind of value proposition between the two?
So when you think about it, Cisco is an extremely channel-friendly company. We know that our partners take our products and solutions and layer on their expertise. So when Cisco came into the compute market, we really revolutionized the compute market. And so we have partners that invested in that expertise. Well, when we look at that cross-section of partners, and then I look at your partners, the overlap and the crossover was phenomenal. Yeah. And that complement of that knowledge set for deployment is so important for customer success. So we're really excited about that. And I have to tell you that a great example of where that's come together with a knowledgeable Veeam partner and Cisco UCS partner is a customer in Kansas, an enterprise customer.
Can't say the name though.
I can't yet.
It's coming.
So, but in Kansas, we had this customer who had deployed a competitive solution to Veeam and Cisco. It was a data domain solution. They needed to add additional capacity. Well, the challenge was that they had a fixed budget. We came in together with our partner and offered a Veeam Cisco solution, and together we were able to solve the customer's business problems for 50% cost savings.
Wow.
Now, none of us have unlimited budget. So what the customer was able to do with the additional funds, the additional budget, was look forward into their next fiscal year and pull forward a budget request that they had slated but had pushed out for another 6 months. So they were able to do both projects.
That's great. So Cisco has been in the data center. You know, we talked a lot about the data center and how it's evolving. Cisco's been in the data center for a long time. You've been with Cisco and the data center business for a while. How has that changed? What have you seen in inflection points along the way, and how is that changing, or how do you see that changing over the next couple of years?
Well, you know, so interestingly enough, when I hear the messaging this morning that this audience is talking about in the conversations yesterday, it's very similar to what Cisco is seeing around our multi-cloud journey that we're taking our customers on. Yeah. So we think about the fact that no longer do we have the luxury of data being inside of your physical data center. Yeah. It was a lot easier to manage when it was in one place all the time, but we know that the pace of business is demanding that applications and data be in many different locations. So regardless of whether you've deployed on-prem or in the public cloud, or like most of our customers, in a hybrid cloud environment. We have deployed infrastructure and capabilities inside of that environment that allows our customers to access their data regardless of where their application is.
So Cisco has always been tied with cutting edge innovation. So what do you expect? What are some of the things that you think we will see shortly down the road within your organization and with maybe even with our partnership?
So I can tell you that when Cisco came into the compute market, we came into a crowded market. There were some big compute vendors that had been out there a lot longer than Cisco, for sure. So when we came into the market, we focused on making the best compute product that was differentiated in the market. And we saw in just 5 years, 60,000 customers move from competitive solutions to Cisco UCS. But that was a standalone product that had clear differentiation, but we then wanted to move to converged infrastructure because none of our customers are putting UCS, our compute platform, out there in a silo. It's connected to compute, to network, to storage. So we came out with converged infrastructures. We've now seen that the market, our enterprise customers, are now adopting hyper-converged. And hyper-converged really gives us that simplified compute, network, and storage that has cloud management. And so Cisco's HyperFlex offering is a perfect complement between what Veeam and Cisco are doing together. So you should continue to see that Cisco's going to be investing in solutions that are really customer-driven and customer-influenced that help make reliable, scalable, rapid deployment solutions. So look for us to expand our solutions and for our growing relationship to continue.
Oh, that's great. So we got a lot of customers out there that Veeam customers, Cisco customers, and some not yet customers of Cisco or Veeam. Any message you want to deliver before you leave the stage?
So I have to tell you, with Veeam being on Cisco's global price list for just 4 months, we have well over 100 customers that have purchased and deployed the solution. It is one of our fastest growing solutions inside of the Cisco solution portfolio. So I encourage you, if you haven't had the opportunity to see what Cisco and Veeam can do together, to talk to your channel partner, to talk to Cisco or to Veeam. We're really excited about what we can do together.
Well, thank you for coming and being part of VeeamON, but most importantly, thank you for all your efforts you put into building this relationship together with Veeam. We're incredibly excited to be working with Cisco.
It's a great partnership, Peter. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you, CJ. Next up is, thank you. Next up is Jeff Giannetti. So Jeff came to us. He's been 14 months with us here, runs the Americas business for us. We were fortunate enough to recruit Jeff out of IBM, where Jeff ran the global cloud storage business for IBM sales, but came to IBM from the CleverSafe, where he ran sales for CleverSafe, 12 years at NetApp, Sun, and many different things. But Jeff's passion and excitement and ability to recruit talented people has already had a tremendous impact on our business here. And it gives me great pleasure to introduce Jeff Giannetti on the stage. Jeff. Hey, buddy. Good to see you.
You too.
So, Jeff, you've been here 14 months now. So, how's it been?
Well, last year at this time, I was maybe a month or two in, and I was sitting out in the third row.
Yes, I remember that.
A much different perspective to be up here on stage with you, but it's been an awesome journey so far. I'm so pumped.
It's great to have you here. Now, you've been in the industry for a while, so, I mean, you may not have been the, availability expert when you came here, but, what's going on in the industry? What are you seeing?
I just think, and we've talked about it throughout all the speakers today, the stakes in IT have changed.
Yeah.
Danny talked about that mainframe Banyan Vines environment that's, it's in one place, and you managed it in one place, and you kind of always knew where things were. And the idea of an outage every once in a while to maintain things was okay.
Yeah.
And just think about how foreign that is. So anybody who knows me knows I love clothes. I used to sell clothes when I was in college.
It's hard being on stage beside you, Jeff.
I'm sorry.
Because you got far better clothes than I have.
And the green pockets, that's for rat hair. That's,
okay, well, I have one that's probably not near as much as yours.
Well, and so I was on a website.
Yeah.
And I'm surfing, buying some clothes. And I went to the site I wanted to get to, and it said, down for maintenance. Now think about now that was common. If we've been in IT a while, you remember that, but it's completely foreign today.
Yes.
So this idea of hyper available, always on, has just raised the stakes for the folks in the audience who are running IT systems. The stakes are higher now.
Absolutely.
And downtime is just something that's a foreign thing anymore.
And what are you seeing? You're out talking to customers every day, talking to partners. What are you seeing in the industry? What trends do you see more often than today than you did maybe 2 years ago, 3 years ago?
And I think the one that probably strikes home most, and we've talked about it here repeatedly, and I think we'll hear about it throughout the conference, is just this idea of the data now lives in multiple places. It's no longer just in your data center, on your systems, or it's not even in a hosted facility. It's in multiple data centers. It's served by multiple services, and yet you're still, as a customer, responsible for all of it. And I think, to me, being almost in the storage industry now, almost 20 years, that's probably the biggest difference.
Got it.
Is, back at NetApp, you knew where the filers were.
Yeah.
And your data was on it, and you protected it, and it was safe. You're still doing that, but now you have data scattered across all the systems and all the cloud services that you consume as an enterprise, and that makes everybody's job more complex, more difficult, especially those tasked with protecting data.
Absolutely. So 2017 was a great year for the Americas, for Veeam, but the Americas. Why was that the case? We grew, high 30s in Americas and in all segments: SMB, commercial, enterprise, SLED, Fed, Canada, LATAM. Why?
Well, I would say
it's you.
No, well, no, it's not. I would say it was my management philosophy, which is the Steelers way, but that would be career limiting up here. So
especially since the Steelers haven't won in a long time. So,
I think it's a few things. The first one is, and I've been amazed by this, we have an awesome product.
Yeah.
We just have an awesome product. And it's multiple times in my first quarter here, I sent emails to your executive team saying, oh my God, this place is incredible. Yeah. And I've been here 14 months. And as the head of America's sales, you typically expect at some point you're going to get that phone call from a customer on fire. Like Danny said, when I'm down, I'm down. It doesn't matter whose fault it is. And you got to jump in and help and make sure this support level is appropriate. And so 14 months, we have approximately 100,000 customers across the Americas, and I'm still waiting for that first call.
Yeah.
The stuff just works, and the customers I meet with love it, absolutely love it. So that's one. To me, it always comes back to the people. We have this concept of VeeamAzing, making it just an unbelievable place. We recruit people that are hungry, humble, and smart. And I think that creates a phenomenal experience. It contributes to the Net Promoter Score when our customers and partners are dealing with phenomenal people. Yep. And then lastly, and you're seeing examples of it today, there'll be more, it's having an ecosystem that delivers solutions to our clients. It's going from multiple products to one solution that meets the needs in conjunction with our partners. And I think those three things cause that growth rate in the Americas, and I think it'll be even better this year.
When you think of 2018 beyond, challenges, anything you worry about, anything that in particular you would think are things that we as a company or partners need to worry about in terms of challenges going forward?
I think for us now, it's when you have a phenomenal product, great people, and building incredible partners, it's now just about execution.
Yeah.
And in my mind, part of what this conference is about is demonstrating Veeam's ability now to go execute. And so I'm incredibly confident, and I'm hopeful and confident as well that when this group leaves, they're going to start to see and experience and feel Veeam in a light that says we can deliver on the promises that we've talked about.
That's great. That's great. Thank you very much, Jeff Giannetti. So thanks, Jeff. Thank you. Hold on, you're not going. So you mentioned the importance of partnership and alliances, and you know, we heard a little bit from CJ on Cisco. It's my great pleasure to introduce our next speaker, a good friend of ours at Veeam, been instrumental in driving our HP Veeam partnership for many years. So it gives me great pleasure to introduce Bill Philbin, the Senior Vice President and Global CTO of HP Storage. Bill. There he is. You forget where the door was.
Welcome, Bill.
Hey, how are you?
So, Bill, you know, you're up here on stage with a Pittsburgh Steeler fan and a New England Patriot fan. And every time I talk to you, it seems like you're switching from one to another, you know. So you're a Green Bay Packers. I always knew you were a Green Bay Packer fan.
Bart Starr era, yes.
Yep, Bart Starr, okay. But then, for some reason, you've switched to Philadelphia Eagles.
Well, you know, so my hometown is Scranton, Pennsylvania. Nobody?
Scranton.
Yep, there we go.
Okay, there's one.
Yes.
Okay, two.
Right?
Okay, two. Okay.
And I grew up as an Eagles fan.
Yeah.
And as soon as I saw the matchup,
okay, there's another one.
One guy.
No, that's the same
There's
guy.
two of them
That's
out
the
there.
same guy.
So, there's not many
We're
Eagle
going to have a
fans
meetup
here.
group later. So as soon as I saw the matchup, I said, oh, I got to get my Eagles stuff out. And,
Yeah. Thank you for not doing that.
Yeah, I was going to come with my Eagles hat, and I decided no.
No, that would have been tough.
Yeah, it would have been tough for you. Yeah.
I'm still sore about that. So, changes.
Yeah.
Your role's changed within HP. Tell us a little bit about that.
So, you know, last time I was here, you know, I was the guy running the storage business, and you and I spent some time together about 18 months ago where we got our relationship started. We got you on the price list, et cetera. About 3 months ago, I like to think I've been promoted to my level of incompetence. I'm now the global CTO for the hybrid IT business, which is really driving partnerships and acquisitions as well as driving our global technology strategy.
Great.
When I'm done with this, I'm hoping that I'll be made co-CEO at some point.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. I'm hoping that I'll eventually elevate.
You can take
to that
my
level.
job. That's okay.
No, that's impossible. That's impossible. It's in Boston.
Maybe available.
Yeah.
Maybe available. So great. I mean, we announced. I mean, we've been working together with HP for many years.
Yeah.
We announced kind of global price list and all that. Where Jeff and I are gonna step back and kind of let you take from here. But tell us about the partnership and kind of where HP's going, and we'll let you go from here.
Well, look, so, you know, if you followed the news feed, you know, HP is now universally focused on the needs of our enterprise infrastructure customers, right? We have sort of gotten ourselves uniquely focused on that. We've got a new CEO, Antonio Neri, and I think that focus, you know, just like in any large family, the fewer kids you have, the more time mom and dad gets to spend with the kids.
That could be good or bad.
Yeah, especially if you're the one that got left, right? So, you know, number one, we're a uniquely focused company. Number two, I think the Veeam partnership in a very short amount of time has been nothing short of spectacular. You know, we closed a large deal together.
Largest in our history.
Largest deal in your history. And for the partners out there, it was both beneficial to both Hewlett-Packard Enterprise as well as Veeam, right? Yeah. And I just think the goodness is going to continue. And so, you know, we're really excited about it. I'm happy to be your executive sponsor, even though I've changed jobs, because I want to be up here next year to kick your ass.
You can't leave us. We're hooking you to the Veeam wagon.
Yeah,
all right.
Okay.
I don't have any green on. About HP.
All right, hey, thanks guys. Howdy, everybody. Who was here last year to hear me speak? Anybody? Well, the jokes haven't changed, so I'll have to develop some new material, unfortunately. So when I was talking to Peter, I said, what would you like me to say this year? You know, last year, you know, I think I had a good time anyway. I hope you guys did as well. I said, what would you like me to talk about? And then I sat through what was some really, I think, excellent presenters. You know, Dave Russell, you know, the father of backup and recovery. I thought, a lot of the things that I could talk about, I think, were already said. And Peter said, you know, one of the things we'd like you to do, Bill, is validate what we're saying. You're the cleanup batter here, or validate what you're saying. And, you know, I remember when availability was measured in nines. Remember that? 5 nines, 6 nines, 7 nines. God forbid you were the executive to go talk to a customer where you had to explain they were the 0.00001 and not the 9. We no longer measure availability in nines. As a matter of fact, I remember when presidential candidates had the newspaper and press releases to communicate. I remember when you had encyclopedias and not Google. Now, in my house, we don't use Google because Mrs. Philbin is always right. Really not necessarily need to ever look at Google. Actually, it causes more damage than it does good. But how the world has changed when I started in IT, where the PC revolution is here, to now where we are today. But we, rather than saying this is something that happened to us, we did it to ourselves, and unfortunately, it's not going to change. The difficult thing, as we sort of have moved from generation to generation to generation in the computer industry, is that applications and the ecosystem have gotten much more complicated. Now, I don't want to, carbon date myself here too much, but, when we were dealing with computers that had 128K of memory, or 128 bits of memory in some cases, versus what we have today, the world has radically changed. And I think, one of the presenters actually said, hey, he was on a websites being down, et cetera, et cetera. You're only a shift, click, delete from being eliminated from use in a customer's environment. And sort of where do you begin? Where do you begin when you've got, everybody remember the hourglass in Windows? They used to spin. The same guy from Pennsylvania, right? When's the last time you saw a spinning hourglass in any device that you're operating on? You haven't. And the question is, how do you sort of begin? Where do you start? Now, at vendor conferences like this one, it's very often we talk about, the world has changed. You are ill-prepared for that change. The good news is we have the tool to prepare you for the change. Press hard. You're making 3 copies. Thank you very much. So what I thought I'd talk about is not that. I thought I would talk about what steps that you should take. Now, first and foremost, the world is changing to a point where simple automation, simple capabilities are no longer possible. We talked quite a bit about automation in the last 90 minutes or so, and I would posit that automation is no longer good enough. The environment must automate and learn on its own and predict and provide capabilities that we as humans cannot anticipate. Now, we spend quite a bit of time talking about the automated car. You've seen a lot of the articles about automated cars. Me, myself, I'm too much of a control-oriented individual to have somebody else be responsible for a 2-ton automobile that I'm driving. And for those of you from Boston, we tack off things like automated cruise control, et cetera, because we want to be 12 feet from the person that's immediately in front of us, because they're in our lane. But that is where the world is going, not because it creates a better, safe environment for everyone. It actually allows us to put more cars on the road because the car manufacturers realized that I can't change the infrastructure, but if I can put more cars on the road closer together, I can actually sell more vehicles. Now, the way they're going to do that is they're going to use the information management platforms, all the sensors that come back from the vehicle, computed at the vehicle and at a corporate center to actually provide real data insights to the driver and the car. So the next time you drive down that road, it's learned from the behaviors of not only you, but everybody else, so we can actually get to where we're going much faster. And that's one way that we close the actual information gap. So when you think about partners, you think about vendors who are building and talking to you about applications in the future, when you ask them about things like availability, ask them about how they will help you predict and prevent availability from occurring, because it does happen. It's only a matter of when, not if. But where do you start? That automated car thing sounds a bit futuristic, although by 2020, the automobile manufacturers, their plan is to actually have automated cars on the streets. Where do you start? You must assume that problems will occur in your environment. You must protect yourself at the point at which you provision an application, not the point at which an application problem has occurred, but you need to predict and prevent application outages from occurring from the very start. From a data landscape perspective, the best place to keep a copy of your data is on the array where you created the data. The second best place to keep a copy of your data is on an array that looks like the array it created from, so you can use it for useful purposes. One of the crazy things about data protection and enterprise availability and lots of other conversations is it sounds like it's expensive. It sounds like it's data that you'll never need. And we need to find ways to actually use that data more effectively, whether it's DevOps or dev security or other capabilities. Now, a copy of your data is not necessary and sufficient. One of the things that Dave said is that he's surprised that customers are still having to be taught that you need a third copy of your data, because replicas have a way of automatically copying errors much faster than humans. And that's where a third copy of your data is important. Now, it's interesting. I was having this discussion with my grandson. He's 13. And I was telling him I was coming here to the conference, and he said, what are you going to talk about? And I said, blah, 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 and he didn't understand it. And I thought, really what this comes down to beyond availability is flexibility versus adaptability. Now, we often use those terms interchangeably, right? Would you rather be flexible or adaptable? Where's my guy from Pennsylvania? Here he is. Flexible or adaptable? What's the right answer again? The right answer is adaptable, but that's not, I wanted you to answer flexible. We think about flexibility, the ability to bend and shape and change our environment, right? But anything that has a physical sort of characteristic to it has a limit on its flexibility. I often think about a snake is flexible. A mouse is flexible. It gets into places where we wouldn't think. But a chameleon is adaptable. It adapts to the environment. There are fish species who adapt to look like a rock in their environment. And in addition to sort of providing a copy of data on the device and off the device in the cloud, you need to make sure that you can adapt to things that are not on the radar screen today. How many people would have expected hyper-converged platforms like SimpliVity to be in vogue now versus 5 years ago? We were simply 5 years ago talking about converged systems at Hewlett-Packard Enterprise. Now we're talking about hyper-converged systems as the way of deploying applications in your data center or at the edge. So the point I want to leave you with is, number one, you protect at the point when you create the application. Number two, you need to create a flexible or a more adaptable infrastructure to go ahead and do that. We recently announced with Veeam the next generation of our Nimble ecosystem, which is both a standard storage array as well as a secondary flash array. So you can sort of keep copies of your data not only at where it belonged, but an additional copy for DevOps and other use cases. 40% of Nimble customers use Veeam. Let me give you that number again. 40% of Nimble customers today use Veeam. Now let me give you a little point of view from somebody outside of a vendor, right? Protection and availability and recovery sounds expensive. It's only expensive when you don't need it, and you always need it. You know, I was thinking, one of the presenters mentioned ransomware. I remember ransomware was something you wore when you dropped off the money. Think about that for a minute. I believe that ransomware was something you wore when you dropped off the money. It'll occur to you in the elevator, you're going to laugh hysterically, okay? Ransomware is a real thing every day. How expensive is it to replace and fix a ransomware sort of a problem? So our customers together with Veeam and Hewlett-Packard Enterprise have predicted lower costs of unplanned downtime, higher ROI, improved backup windows, faster data recovery. This is not something that's going to happen in the future. This is something that's happening today. Now, I promised I wouldn't sort of try to talk like a vendor, but you know, the amount of data that we're actually processing is quite unique. It's interesting, when we were all in IT together in the early ages, we could actually predict the growth of our data, had some logarithmic function to the growth of our business. That's no longer possible. More data comes in from the web and from machines and from YouTube and from all the other places, which are almost as business critical as anything else. I was talking to a CIO in a Swiss conservative bank. I guess that's sort of an oxymoron, right? A Swiss and conservative bank in the same sentence. 120 petabytes of data, 40 petabytes of it was Hadoop. He was surprised about that data growth, and more importantly, was surprised that it was business critical data that was unprotected. So this is a phenomena. I think one of the presenters said that data is the new currency. It's really the new liquid currency that's driving our growth. What we've done from a Hewlett-Packard perspective is we acquired Nimble Storage. Is one of the things I did as the storage GM roughly about a year ago. And one of the things that was interesting about that acquisition is the acquisition of a technology called InfoSight. If you're not familiar with the technology, InfoSight essentially monitors the progress and the behaviors you're using on the appliance, begins to predict the behaviors and looks at sort of the outcomes you're achieving versus others in your similar use cases, and recommends changes that you need to make to improve and increase your outcome. Very soon, it will only not monitor and examine your behaviors and recommend. With your permission, it will act on that capability and actually change your environment for you as we go. In a world that permits zero downtime, humans are no longer able to accurately predict and accurately measure what's going on. Now, as I sat in the audience, I thought, you know what, if I think about sort of what Veeam is talking about, they're talking about the ability to sort of measure and protect the data which is growing within your data center. They talked about the need to sort of automate and provision capability, and they talked about eventually the ability to sort of provide an intelligent data management platform as part of their vision to actually deliver and improve outcomes, to improve hyper-availability within your environments. That's exactly the strategy that we have at Hewlett-Packard Enterprise. So the strength of the partnership, I've been married with Mrs. Philbin for 32 years, at least I was when I left home yesterday. The strength of the partnership is having a joint and agreed upon agenda. Maybe not 100% lined up, but it's your, you know, do you want to have children? You don't want to have children? You want to live in the Southwest? You want to live in the Northeast? Where do you, you know, let's have a conversation. We had that conversation many years ago with Veeam. The second one is to have the durability, the stick-to-itiveness, death do you part. And I think that you see that when you see the relationships that we have. And I think third, you look at the product and level of integration that we already have today and the ability to derive better outcomes for our customers. I think that cements a partnership, not only for now or 18 months ago when we started selling Veeam, but it cements a partnership well into the future. So if you're considering, if you're a Hewlett-Packard Enterprise customer and you're considering a data protection, intelligent data management platform for hyper-availability, I would greatly recommend that you look at the capabilities of both Hewlett-Packard and Veeam. Thank you very much, everybody. We rehearsed I got on stage part. Did we rehearse I get off stage part? Thank you very much. I'm here all week. Eat the meatloaf.
Thank you, Bill.
Buddy.
And I cracked up at the ransomware joke.
Ransomware joke,
fantastic.
one person did.
Fantastic. All right. Forgive the glasses and the notes, but this resume that I have the privilege of sharing with you from our next speaker personifies what hyper-availability means, and you'll see what I mean in a second. Our next speaker is Rear Admiral David Simpson, who is a graduate of the U.S. Naval Academy with an advanced degree from the Naval Academy in Space Science Operations. Admiral Simpson served as Chief of the Federal Communications Commission's Public Safety and Homeland Security Bureau for 4 years. As the Bureau Chief, he oversaw public safety, homeland security, emergency management, cybersecurity, and disaster preparedness for the FCC. He brought to this role more than 20 years of networking and communications experience supporting the Department of Defense while working closely with other federal agencies to provide secure communication services and improve cyber defense readiness. From 2009 through 2010, as Director for Communications and Information Services for U.S. forces in Iraq and Baghdad, he synchronized strategy and operational level communications for U.S. forces and assisted the government of Iraq in rebuilding their IT infrastructure. He was also the Vice Director of the Defense Information Systems Agency, or DISA, responsible for planning, developing, and providing solutions that serve the needs of the President, the Secretary of State, and the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Now, if that's not enough, he has served aboard the USS Merriford, the USS Germantown, the Pacific Fleet Propulsion Examining Board, and with U.S. Naval Forces Korea as the Command, Control, Communications, Computers, and Intelligence Officer. He was the Combat Systems Department head for the USS John F. Kennedy, deploying to the Persian Gulf during Y2K, supporting Operation Southern Watch, and leading the aircraft carrier technical evaluation of the cooperative engagement capability. In short, our next speaker, throughout his career, lived hyper-availability, and where the failure to provide hyper-availability, or if disruptions occurred, the consequences could be disastrous. It gives me great pleasure to welcome to the VeeamON stage, and please give him a VeeamON welcome, Rear Admiral David Simpson.
Thanks.
Great to have you here.
Well, thank you for that kind introduction, and I'd like to thank my mom for writing that resume. It's an honor to be here with you all, professionals that are basically in the same business that I've been in for over 30 years, and that's the business of continuous operations, always on, always available, always there. When I first started in DoD, that really meant the four-letter acronym we use, PACE, primary, alternate, contingency, emergency. And emergency communications usually devolved down to having a guy with a pad of paper that was ready to go run the message if everything else failed. But as I got more senior and as time went on, expectations increased significantly. And now the E in PACE still means being able to have the same support from UAVs and imagery and weapons in an on-call status available to support troops in contact on the battlefield. That requires a very different commitment to resiliency and availability than in the first years that I started doing command and control in the military. Fast forward then to my work at the Federal Communications Commission. I'm seeing that same commitment now at the state and local level as municipalities start to grapple with the challenges presented, but also the opportunity presented from things like Next Generation 911 and FirstNet. And they now are going from just a voice-only call an operator who will get an ambulance on its way to sharing of text and videos and images associated with dispatch of first responders. So now that idea that municipalities need to be able to absorb hits to their infrastructure, yet still maintain the same always-on availability is increasingly a challenge. What I'd like to do in the next couple of minutes is really lay out some of the trends that are being driven from Washington, D.C. that really, I think, will create significant opportunity for your community to advance the ball on availability, resiliency in the next couple of years. And the first is the presidential management agenda. So the Trump administration early on said, look, we're going to commit to IT modernization. We're going to create a platform for change. It's going to be focused around data. There needs to be a much better data strategy that focuses on the accountability driven through transparency of data and a focus on infrastructure. And finally, the third element was workforce. And there's a desire to shift government workforce to the work that is golden work for government. And in this data space, often that's shifting to cybersecurity and the hunting for adversaries in this space. And that means a shift of the IT operations and things like data backups, the intelligent data management to the private sector. So I think there's really opportunity there to take advantage of that top-down driven shift among government agencies. Second is cybersecurity. We've woken up and said, hey, the 17 critical infrastructure sectors in the nation, everything from telecommunications to power distribution, energy, agriculture, water, sewage, you name it, is now attack surface for adversaries now around the world. It needs a focus on resiliency. We're shifting to risk management where it's not a single tough outside but soft and chewy on the inside. We're expected to make good risk management decisions about defense, security, availability of data in all of those critical infrastructure sectors. Supply chain is increasingly important, and knowing the provenance of your data, knowing the provenance of the software that's going to act upon that data is increasingly important. Defense in depth, we need to not just plan for the adversary never getting in. It's not an if, it's a when. So you need to be able to fight through attacks. You need to be able to fight through penetrations, and that means a focus on the identify, protect, detect, respond, and recover. You can't afford to just work on protect and not also put attention into respond and recover. And finally, deterrence. And the best deterrence is a good offense. If you're a hard target, the adversary is going to go elsewhere. What better way to be a hard target than to use capabilities like Veeam to present a surface that has that defense in depth for adversaries. So I think we're seeing across the board rising resiliency expectations, not just in availability, but in confidentiality and integrity as well. So it's very important not just to be always on, but to have your data be always right and to have confidence in that. I think we're going to see significant implications from the Internet of Things that will drive agencies before that looked at their protected environment as IT to now look across the board at all their lines of business and really need to figure out how those cheap, inexpensive IoT sensors at the edge fit into a traditional data environment focused on IT. And finally, privacy and expectations there. So there's a dichotomy between the goals that organizations have around data analytics, where you just want to collect it all and make it visible so that you can do correlations between data elements in a very useful manner, to expectations of privacy, where you don't want to make all that information discoverable to all audiences. And that is creating a built-in tension that when you look at backups and the management of data in an organization suggests that we need capabilities that are more nuanced, that have the ability to allow us to attain our resiliency goals, yet do so following business rules that are driven by the privacy obligations that I have. That ability to collect a large amount of data, but then very quickly anonymize that data so it's not tied to an individual, yet make that anonymized data available in aggregation so that I can act upon it and do things to accomplish the mission of my organization. And of course, security of all of that has to go right with it. You don't have privacy if you don't have the security to make sure that that private information is protected. We are at an inflection point, and I love the way Danny described it before, and Cisco again reiterated it. If it's not nailed down, you're going to virtualize it. And if it is nailed down, virtualize it. So network functional virtualization is happening now, and it will just accelerate. Software-defined networks, software-defined radios, we have that expectation to be faster, better, cheaper. It can reduce the attack surface. But if we're not careful and we optimize that virtualized environment around lowest cost architecture, then it won't naturally be a more secure environment. It could be an Achilles heel for enterprises, which is why it's so important to think about security from the very beginning and actually use that virtualization to reduce risk in an organization. And that means paying attention to attack surface and what that looks like as you're virtualized. That means knowing where you virtualized and having products like Veeam to help keep track of where those virtualized elements are and be able to apply risk scores to each of them and to have a backup for that virtualized infrastructure and easily employable will become even more important for agencies. So we're seeing this now as we speak in multiple federal agencies. One example I'll give you is the US Navy, where ships have, for as long as I went to sea, had their own information infrastructure that had very little connection to the information infrastructure ashore, and just a very thin communication pipe over satellite. Increasingly, though, the military is looking at the cloud as providing that baseline backbone infrastructure capability, and ships and other maneuver units as tactical extensions of that cloud environment. And so the Navy this month has worked on a new pilot program called Compile to Combat. And the Chief of Naval Operations said, hey, if we're going to assign these multi-mission ships that we didn't, or excuse me, missions that we didn't anticipate before they deployed, we need in the future to be able to bring them the right app and the right data for that newly assigned mission. Think of a tsunami and a humanitarian assistance mission, so that they can be optimally employed as soon as they arrive on station. And I want to be able to get that new mission, write code, get it to the ship, and compile it so that it's available for use within hours, not the traditional several years-long process of getting new code onto our maneuver units. It's that kind of expectation that we're going to see more and more from all of the services. I'd also like to talk about a trend that I'm seeing occur right before our eyes, from manual to now self-healing. Self-healing networks have been a thing for a while, and self-healing implies that you're going to get back to where you were, which is great, and Veeam for years has been helping its customers do that, to recover and get back to status quo. But I think that we're taking really a page out of what we're seeing from some of the cyber attackers. Some of you may remember the Dyn attack. It was a Mirai botnet. Mirai actually infected the consumer devices in homes, the baby monitors and cameras. Well, the first thing that Mirai botnet did, it actually improved the security of all those edge devices. Because if you get that access and you're an adversary and you now have your own botnet, you don't want somebody else taking that botnet away from you. So the attackers actually improved the security. We need to take a page out of that same book and change our expectations from self-healing to self-annealing, so that when we do learn from a successful intrusion, a successful attack onto our systems, we're not just satisfied with getting back to where we were. We want to use machine learning and AI to actually learn from that attack and harden as part of our recovery process. And that's really what I think I see in the description that Danny gave of that fifth stage that Veeam is working on next, that automated stage, that we take advantage of machine learning and AI to actually improve the environment as we go. You're going to see agencies employ many clouds, and some of that will be for performance means, for increasing the resiliency and the availability of systems. Some of it, though, will be driven by cost objectives and lowering the price of things. And what I think is not in the too distant future is we're going to see a need for a middle layer of cloud arbitrage, where enterprises are looking to get lowest cost storage options on the fly while still attaining their good enough resiliency objectives. So that suggests that intelligent data management will be even more important in that kind of environment. And I think the platform that Veeam has created will naturally build to that kind of a capability. I also think, talking about the Internet of Things, that the location at the edge of so many sensors will take AI that has now just been done centrally in a cloud environment or a data center environment, and it'll push a degree of AI out to the edge. So it will be very important to, again, think of that tactical cloud environment, if you will, and be able to orchestrate between what you do from your primary cloud or multiple cloud vendors and what you're doing operationally at the edge in IoT. define your cyber universe. As I said before, cyber a couple of years ago was what you did around your IT. It ain't so no more. It absolutely is in every line of business. ICS, SCADA, supervisory control and data acquisition, health monitoring. Think of strain gauges on a bridge now being able to be aggregated in their readings. AI at the edge determine whether or not failure is impending, and that impending failure then communicated back to the cloud to then communicate to the traffic lights to turn them red before the bridge fails. Or the 60 seconds of warning we'll get before earthquakes now, which is actually possible and being done in several areas around the world. What does that mean in being able to communicate emergency alerts and to change the damping of buildings so that they're ready for the attack? That cyber universe is changing significantly. With that change, government agencies are shifting to a risk management framework process for their approach to cyber. We're seeing that not only at the federal government with RMF, but the NIST framework is applied at the state and local levels as well, and throughout industry. And use of the framework suggests then a continuous need to assess cyber risk, appreciate that risk, and then act upon that risk and address and mitigate. The risk tiers that are identified in the risk management framework have you assess in each of the subcategories whether you're partial, risk-informed, whether you can repeatedly address risk in an appropriate manner for each of those subcategories, or the most mature tour is adaptable, continuously scanning for what the risk is in a given cybersecurity subcategory, and then changing your environment to address that new observed risk, whether it's from a threat indicator, a change in your physical environment, or from an observed penetration that you've seen. That most mature implementation of cybersecurity risk management, I think, will benefit greatly from a platform like Veeam's to allow the CIOs, the CISOs of organizations to be able to see their current risk posture and be confident that the AI, the machine learning that they have employing is doing the right thing, or take steps if it's not to manually address that risk. In the DoD, we're seeing the move to a platform across the entire information environment and to get rid of stovepipes. We're seeing the same thing across the Fed Civ sector. As you take agencies, organizations that have been used to, throughout their existence, managing their own IT environment and having complete control of all of that, and then you bring them together into an enterprise with many other agencies, that doesn't work if you don't address the cultural barriers to that large-scale enterprise work, which means you've got to get and sustain trust between the different agencies. Sustaining trust means having the right visibility into that risk environment in that now larger enterprise environment. And again, the Veeam platform, I believe in the future, will help facilitate that trust between agencies used to doing their own IT that will allow them to make that cultural shift into a more efficient and effective, larger enterprise with the same pane of glass and the ability to look at risk across their storage environment. In industry, we're seeing the shift from information sharing and analysis centers to information sharing and analysis organizations that include a machine-to-machine sharing of threat indicator information from cybersecurity. That machine-to-machine sharing should then be coupled with an action on the other end, an action that improves the risk posture of your data operations. That, to me, suggests that there's going to be a greater need for an orchestration across that data environment. In DoD, there's the Joint Regional Security Stacks that collect information from things like intrusion detection sensors, firewalls, and a deep packet inspection, puts it into a big data repository called Acropolis, for which correlation should be done. That needs to then be coupled with the ability to make conclusions based on that data and then act upon them. It also means that when those whiffs of smoke start to crop up, the capacity and storage capacity and CPUs and bandwidth that you have for your day-to-day compute environment suddenly will spike as you bring that into an area where you want to apply AI. So as Danny mentioned, I fully expect that there will be an increasing need for surge storage capacity and compute capacity that you won't want to incur day-to-day costs for all year long, but you're going to want to rapidly add to your cloud environment and do so in a way that has a consistent control platform, allowing the introduction of that new capacity. 5G will underpin the Internet of Things. It's going to make that ability to have environmental centers, places where we today wouldn't think of putting wireless sensors, with significant bandwidth, very low latency, and move some of those analytics to the edge. But in order for enterprises to do that and still have the right, what I call command and control of those resources, they're going to need an orchestration layer. I also think that we're going to see a need to protect those edge devices in a way that might be different than the higher value analyzed information at the center. And we'll see the introduction of new cryptographic capabilities like distributed ledger or blockchain help secure that environment in a way that might be different from how you're securing your core intellectual property at the center of your enterprise. Again, which suggests that that orchestration layer will be more complex. It will benefit from a greater variety of storage capabilities and a need to ensure that that platform layer is among your most protected layers of your critical infrastructure. I also think that FirstNet Next Gen 911, as I talked about, will bring that same need that DoD has seen for a while down to the state and local levels as they begin to appreciate, oh my goodness, my comms are all on internet protocol now. You may have read that Atlanta, followed by Baltimore, were recently attacked, and 911 and other municipal services were down for hours, and dispatchers had to resort to old-fashioned means to respond to emergencies. It won't take too many more of those before you start to see those governmental entities begin to look for solutions like Veeam to improve their ability to manage resilience across their enterprise. New money. For the first year in many years, sequestration isn't capping the federal spend. And I would suggest to you that there are many federal agencies, the DoD among them, that weren't exactly counting on sequestration to be lifted and may not have the depth of planning, programming, and budgeting that they would in years that weren't capped by sequestration limits. This, to me, is an opportunity for Veeam and Veeam's partners to begin to put together some white papers, put together initiatives that maybe weren't part of the normal RFP process, that as those agencies begin to deal with, oh my gosh, I got the money this year, what do I put it on? I think that's an opportunity for you all to begin to address this need that the agencies have, responding to that federal direction to get to the cloud, to put together pilots and put together scaling opportunities for their move to the cloud. Congress created IT modernization funds, so for the first time, you don't have to pull from OpEx to capitalize a new capability. You can actually capitalize that with the return in OpEx to come later. There's also a new team there, a new team ready to approach long-standing problems in new ways. They aren't afraid to change what they're doing, but they also don't necessarily have this fully cooked, which is why coming forward with an initiative that would suggest to this new team, hey, this is what you're talking about, and this can help you get there from here, I think is a real opportunity this year. Will the Defense Information Systems Agency be devolved? Will it break up? I don't know that we'll go back to 5 different networks that were being done singly by DISA, but there certainly will be changes in some of the deck chairs that where there's changes and the focus is on reorganization, that can be an opportunity to business with a plan. And finally, I would take a look at GSA and what's going on with their changes to the schedule, their introduction of cloud offerings, and look to bundle some of the things that you're doing with Veeam and get them on GSA schedules. Finally, help connect the dots. You know, architecture has been kind of a dirty word inside the Beltway because it connotes something that was developed years ago that is no longer applicable if you want to be cutting edge. But the reality is architectures are still important. And if you can help connect the dots for agencies, whether at the federal level, state, or local level, you really can help them achieve what they're looking for in resiliency and this command and control of information in a manner that builds upon what they've already done with you. Finally, let me talk about the command and control of cyberspace. For the longest time, we talked about command and control in the military as who the commander is, who their subordinate commanders are, and the relationships between them. It then became clear that there's really a C2 structure within C4I with computers and communications and intelligence. And we need in this cyberspace to really have a command and control orientation, that the parameters of cyberspace aren't defined by physics, they're man-made constraints, and keeping track of that is essential to having command and control of cyber. So Veeam, I think, is particularly well positioned to provide with the partners that command and control of cyber, not only for DoD organizations, but for government writ large and for companies themselves that have large distributed footprints around the world that need to have that command and control of their cyber universe. So let me end with a charge to all of you. Get your Veeam on. Thanks so much and appreciate your time.
All right, let's hear it. How about a round of applause for all of our speakers? Whoops, thank you. All right, great session this morning, laying out Veeam's vision for the hyper-available enterprise. And the remainder of the day today and tomorrow is really to help increase your confidence as you go to the breakout sessions and listen to individual speakers in a smaller setting, to increase your confidence in Veeam's ability to deliver on this vision. I'm convinced, and I think you will be too as you go through the day today. Have a wonderful day. Enjoy yourselves. We'll see you throughout the day and back here again tomorrow. Thank you.
I got this feeling inside my bones. It goes electric wavy when I turn it on. Off from my city, off from my home. We're flying up, no ceiling when we in our zone. I got that sunshine in my pocket, got